In this tutorial, I will be going over setting up the Blackboard Grade Center for courses that are going to be using a weighted total. So the first step that you need to do is, if you're going to be using a weighted total, by default, the external grade column is always set to the total column. So the first thing that you want to do is go ahead and click on that down arrow next to the weighted total, and you're going to want to set that as the external grade. Then I would recommend going ahead and deleting the total column, so that way it cuts down on any kind of student confusion over whether you're using the total points or the weighted total column. Then what you'll want to do is you're going to want to take a look at all of the assignments in the course. So you want to go ahead and have your course built out, and the point values that you want to assign for all of your assignments in the course, whether it's discussion boards, journals, assignments, tests, you'll want to assign a 100 point value. And then what we'll do is we'll assign a certain weight based on the amount that we want the bits to be calculated on. So to do that, and since we're going to be using weights, well, I recommend using the categories instead of individual columns. And let me show you the difference. So in this weighted total, I can select individual columns. However, if you see, I've got a bunch of different columns to select. It's a much easier process to use categories, because then all I have to do is make sure that my columns are set to the correct category, and I can bring that whole category over and assign a point value. So first, what we want to do is we want to go into our categories to make sure that those are set correctly. So I'm going to hover over Manage, and I'm going to go to Column Organization. And I'm going to scroll down, and I'm looking through my categories right now. These are the categories that each assignment is set to. And I realized that I actually want these reviews set as assignments. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to check the box next to all of these review assignments. And then I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the screen, and I'm going to hover over Change Category To, and I'm actually going to select Assignment. So now that I scroll back up, I can see that all of the reviews are now set to the correct category. For my quizzes, I want to go ahead and just leave those as tests, so that's correct. Anytime you create a test or an assignment or a journal or a wiki or a discussion, Blackboard will automatically assign it to a certain category. However, in certain instances, like my chapter reviews, I decided that instead of those being calculated as a test, I want to actually consider those an assignment. So in that instance, that's when I would need to go in and make a change to the category designation. But I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to view. So my quizzes are all set to test, and that's exactly what I want. And then I want my journal. So I've got my journal is set to the correct category, my wiki is set to the correct category, and my discussions are set to the correct category. So once I've verified that everything is correct, I'm going to go ahead and click Submit. Now I want to go into my weighted total, and I want to take a look at my So to begin with, your weighted total is actually just going to be blank. So this is what it would look like when you first access your weighted total. So to move the categories over, I'm going to select a category, and I'm going to click the arrow pointing to the right, and that will move it over. So I'm going to do this for each category that I need to move over. Now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and set the actual weights that each item is worth. So for tests, I want those to be worth 30%, I'm sorry. For my discussions, I want those to be worth 25%. For my journals, I want that to be worth 25%. And then for my wikis, I want those to be worth 10%. And for my assignments, I want those to be worth 10%. Now, one of the settings on the weighted total and also the total column is the calculate as running total. You always want calculate as running total set to yes. What that means is you will be responsible for going back and assigning a 0 for each grade that a student misses. So if a student skips an assignment, you need to go back in and you need to assign a 0. The reason we want it to set to yes is that as students go in and they start completing assignments, they're going to start off at an A, and say their first assignment they score a B. So then their grade is going to be lowered to a B. So they will actually know exactly where they stand at that point in the course. If you set it to no, then they'll actually have to work up from 0. And so it's a little bit harder for students to tell where they stand academically. And we want to be fair to students if their grade is very low, that they need to go ahead and drop the course. Plus, this will be really important when it comes to the ILP and the grade syncing. So just make sure you always want calculate as running total set to yes. Now there are some settings down here as well. You can select include this column in Grade Center calculations. It's typically set to default on yes. You can set it to no. However, it's not going to calculate in our final calculations anyway because we have not selected it as a category or as a column to pull over. Now, you also have the option to show this column to students. That needs to be set to yes as well. So that way, again, students can keep up with their grades in the course. The show statistics, that just gives an idea of how other students are doing in the course. I typically leave that setting on no. And then once I've verified all of my settings, and there's actually another setting we want to look at as well. So at Savannah Tech, we require that the primary display be set to percentage. So make sure that your primary display is set to percentage. It will default to score, so it's really important that you also go ahead and adjust that. Now, if you would like to do a secondary display, you can do a secondary display. You just want to set that to letter. And then you'll go ahead and click submit. And now we'll see in our weighted total that for the preview user, as of this point in the course, they have a 95 because they have submitted one assignment and they scored a 95. And that's all you would do to set up a weighted total grade center.